It's time for fantasy football semi-pros. Let's do it.
You ready? You got me running.
Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football Semi-Pros.
Yep, what's up?
So, instead of doing the pleasantries of introducing each other, let's start breaking down our
Tight ends.
tight end rookies.
Tight ends.
Excuse my friend over here.
AKA Beavis. Or the butthead. Which one's the blonde?
I don't remember. I was never really allowed to watch the show when I was a kid.
No, okay, Ducky.
That one show I wasn't allowed to watch.
You're allowed to watch Daria because that was even worse.
No, I didn't even know about that show. But anyways,
All right, let's go. Moving on.
let's jump into my number one ranked tight end, Trey McBride out of Colorado
Also,
State.
my number one ranked tight end as well.
Trey McBride, he had really good hands. He ran good routes. He's a solid blocker.
Yeah,
He was good with his contested catch.
he catches everything. Let's just say that.
Yep. And then the one note I have on him is everyone knew he was the best player on the field,
And still
yet
couldn't
they
stop
couldn't
him.
stop him.
No, I mean, he's a big, great size for a tight end, very athletically built. Like you said, great hands. I said he very good hands with 4 stars around it, catches everything, runs really good routes.
Yeah.
And even when he's lined up at tight end, he gets good like a good release.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily separation, but he avoids that chip and gets into his route pretty fast. Like you said, pretty good run blocker.
Yeah.
I like this kid a lot. Like, man, he's fun to watch. I just wish there was more film on him. Kind of hope he ends up in Cincinnati now that we don't have CJ Uzama anymore.
I've seen
Did I
him
say that
mock
right?
there. Yeah,
Uzama?
Uzama.
Oh, I
I've
got it
seen
right.
him mock
He's
there
no longer a
couple
Bengal.
times.
No longer a Bengal. I finally get his name right.
Yeah, I've seen him mock to Cincinnati a few times. It's interesting on where to take him. I think I'd possibly reach on him at late first or
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, if you're tight end needy. I mean, I drafted Kyle Pitts.
He's a whole different animal. But
1-2 last year.
usually, tight ends they take a year or two to develop.
Yeah.
About 2 or 3
Yeah.
years typically.
But this kid's
But-
I think he's one. He'll be the next Travis Kelce type of tight end to take.
I've seen him comp to Cole Kmet lately, who hasn't been a bad tight end.
No, I mean
Yeah, I
he's
think
been
he'd be better on a different team, but-
right. He's a good tight end. I like this kid
I
a
agree.
lot. I would say late first.
Late first, early second for me.
Yeah, this kid's good, and he's got that upside, that ability, just the solid intangibles for a tight end position player. And he's big too, guys. He's huge. He's got all of these tight ends seem to have really good size. Actually, either great length,
Most of them.
great length, or great size. Yeah, besides Isaiah Likely, but yeah, you're right.
So we'll move on to our next tight end, Jalen Weidermeyer out of Texas A&M.
He's my number 2.
He's my number 4.
Fair? Okay.
All these tight ends, they all seem to have good hands.
Yeah, they're all basically wide receivers, just in bigger bodies.
And Weidermeyer, he was another good route runner. He lined up on the line and split out.
Yeah, he runs routes from the wide receiver position as well.
Mm-hmm.
He runs them pretty well.
Mhm.
He's a good athlete. He's very quick. He's not very stocky, so to speak, but he's got great length. He's got great wingspan.
Yep.
Catches everything
And then
too.
him as a blocker, he shows effort there, but there's
gonna-
room for improvement.
He's gonna need to improve to solidify a position on a
And
team.
the reason I bring up blocking, and I know we're a fantasy football podcast, you don't get points for blocking. Number 1, helps the player see the field.
Right. Yep.
And then number 2, there's so many plays out there where a tight end has to block and then go out for the pass.
Right.
And if you're not able to sell that at least,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be on you and you're not going to be open.
Yeah, and I like Weidermeyer. Again, great athlete. I'm not gonna reach very high up for Weidermeyer, even though he is my number 2 tight end.
Fair. And
I just
late second, early third, possibly.
for you, and I would
Actually,
say,
he's probably mid-third for me.
I would say he's more mid to late second, and if he's there in the 3rd round and you have a pick, might as well go for it, right?
All right. And then we'll go ahead and move on. we'll go into the Big Ten to the
Mhm.
great state of Wisconsin with Jake Ferguson.
He was fun to watch.
He was interesting. I have him as my number 8 tight end right now,
I have him at 8 as well. That's weird.
but he, like you said, all these guys had good hands, and
Mhm.
Jake Ferguson, he was a safety blanket in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, he's a reliable pass catcher, but he wasn't really running too many downfield
Yeah.
routes. It
I
was
have he's
more
a
underneath.
decent route runner, but he had a limited route tree,
Right.
and he was a decent blocker.
Yeah, he did block. He's an effort blocker. We'll say that. He really tries to get his block and hold his man, but
And one of the good things that might work in his favor, he lined up on the line and in the backfield, so he kind of gets that like fullback, H-back spot sometimes. So that could kind of work out in his favor.
yeah, and I think I saw him line up in the slot a few times, but that was
Excuse me.
and he was still running short routes, so nothing really crazy there. I mean, he's a good player. He's a solid player.
He
but-
shows some promise, but he might be that guy that you might get later on. Like he's could be like a Blake Jarwin kind of blow up
Okay.
later on. Like we just don't see it happening.
Right, and I'm not gonna reach in the draft for this kid.
No.
Maybe a free agent pickup if he starts doing well, but or free agent pickup, stash him on your taxi squad and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll go back out west now to UCLA and Greg Dulcich. And-
Hard to read this guy.
He was hard to read, but I think he shows quite a bit of promise.
Yeah, I mean he's got a monster of a person, big man.
He ran good routes.
He did, yeah. He was more of a receiving tight end. He
And,
needs
yeah.
to improve his run blocking.
He was best when used out wide.
right because he
and
would line up
that's-
in the slot and as an outside wide receiver.
Those are the kind of tight ends that you're wanting to take those shot on. Those athletic receivers that are probably going to run more routes than being in a block.
But he's gonna have to learn to block to see the field, like
Yep.
you said.
And that's a note I have on him. He's willing. He's a willing blocker,
But he's not
but
good.
it's still not good.
Yeah, it's not very good. He tries. This kid has effort. He's full effort every single play.
Mm-hmm.
But he's gonna have to become a better tight end.
But I think
Blocking tight
with his
end.
upside, I have him as my number 2.
He's my last one.
Actually,
and we don't even have film on other people, but he's my last one. Just
It-
because it was so raw.
in the
He's
mock
so
drafts, like I've actually seen him mock draft to the Bengals in the 2nd round as the
Okay.
first tight end off the board.
Really, the
Yeah.
number 1 tight end.
Yeah.
I didn't see.
I don't
it.
see that happening, but
I didn't see that from the one game film that
they
we had,
kind of
but-
compared him to Uzama in that case.
Okay. Look, and we're taking what we're seeing and we're guessing. We have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what's gonna happen or how people are utilized. So
And Ryan's more going strictly off eye test.
Yeah,
I'd like
mine
to take
is
in
eye.
some more and kind of get input, but come to my own conclusion.
I really don't listen to any outside sources. I watch the film. I see what I see. I think I know the game of football pretty well. I had to do a lot of film study in college. You watch a lot of film in college. I think I have a pretty good taste for it. But at the end of the day, huge upside for this kid. He's a very good athlete. There's only one game film I think we had on him, and I didn't see a whole lot. Just didn't
Yep.
see enough to put him as my number 1 coming off the board.
Well, he's my number 2.
He's my number 10. Up
So
10.
we're gonna move on to Jeremy Ruckert of Ohio State, and this guy was interesting.
Intriguing.
He has great hands and a
Mhm.
large catch radius.
He does, but he's a little bit undersized for a tight end. And he had Garrett Wilson to compete with for targets.
that's
Chris
why he was
Olave.
intriguing.
Was it
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Jigba.
And that's what he shows that he can catch, but he just didn't get the opportunity too much.
His value is in his hustle, his physical toughness, mental toughness, and his mental attitude overall.
Mhm.
He's a give it everything you got every single play. He's an okay blocker.
He's a solid blocker at the point of attack.
and then
Like if it's right in front of him, he's a good blocker. But
He
if he
just-
has to go like move to get the block, it's not happening.
I watched him get ran over by linebackers like at least twice. And I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean he's a very reliable receiver.
Mhm.
He's a very
And
reliable.
he
tight
was
end.
able to get open a lot,
Yeah,
but he was not throwing too much. And so you can go either way. Like, okay, he was able to get open because everybody was guarding Wilson and Jigba.
Olave.
and Olave.
Yeah.
Or you can say like, okay, the reason he wasn't thrown to is because Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba,
Right.
and Olave.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have Rucker as my number 7 tight end.
I have him at 7 as well.
I wouldn't reach for him. Maybe late third.
But
free
he's a guy to
agent.
watch later on.
Yeah, I think it really depends on where he lands in the NFL. What round is he drafted? What team drafts him? What's their scheme? Are they talking about utilizing him in a certain way? All things to keep an eye on, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Nothing.
Oh,
Our next tight end out of Iowa State, Charlie Kohler, and
this is my number 3 guy.
I wanted to move him up, but I didn't. I think I have him at number 6. Yeah, number 6.
Oh, the Reds just gave up a run. Here we go.
But Charlie Kohler, he lined up both on the line and out wide.
Yep.
Once again, good hands.
He's got
And-
a receiving tight end frame.
Yeah, he was good with catching traffic.
Oh yeah, and he's good at finding the open area and zones.
Mhm.
Um,
Solid blocker. My one note on him is he's not the most athletic, but he's a very solid prospect.
Oh yeah, I agree, man. He's got really great hands. He runs routes okay, and he runs them very smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, he's just lacking a little bit of athleticism that you would like to see. I think he could be a better blocker, and he's going to be used as a receiving tight end, and that's why I have him as number 3. I would say he's not as good as Kyle Pitts, but I think that's how he'll be utilized in the NFL.
Okay.
He may not ever need to be in a blocking.
So like an Evan Ingram role,
Only
better
receiving
hands.
plays. Yeah. I liked watching this film. I mean, I remember watching film on him and saying, watching more film on Charlie Kohler just solidifies that Brees Hall is the number 1 overall pick in this class. I said, but I like watching this kid too. He's my number 3. I like him. He's a good tight end.
Speaking of number 3, my number 3, Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina.
I have likely at 4.
I actually don't have a lot of notes on him. He was a good route runner.
I mean, I can step in here if you'd like.
I'm trying to read.
He's a little bit undersized for a tight end. He's kind of smaller, but he got away with his size playing tight end at Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about him, like I mentioned, a good route runner. He's smaller, yes, but I saw him interfered with and double teamed a lot, and he still won.
Yeah, this kid is a strong, athletic kid, amazing athlete. He's very explosive. If he gets the ball in his hand, he runs like a receiver / running back, right? Like he's just an overall athlete. And I even have here, I said, I hope he keeps his tight end tag.
Yeah.
In the NFL, because of his size, they might try to move him to a wide receiver 3.
Speaking of players being moved, I know this doesn't pick any of the rookies. Do you see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is now trying to be a tight end for Philly?
Is he a wide receiver?
He was drafted as a wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd round.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years ago I think it was.
No, I did not hear that. But yeah, I hope this kid keeps his tight end tag because that would be a very valuable. It's because if he starts playing wide receiver, I mean, it's like Taysom Hill playing tight end and stuff, and QB and all that stuff, and
then likely he was a willing blocker, and
Yes.
he's physical with his play.
yeah, like he's very. Oh man, he's a great player.
He's fun to watch.
The only reason why I have him at 4, which is kind of low for a tight end,
He's smaller.
He's small, and we just don't know how he's going to be utilized. But I think he has a lot of potential and upside. Even though he's my number 4, I'd be willing to reach into the late 2nd for him.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I'm not sure on that yet. I think he'd probably be a 3rd round pick for me.
And when I say late 2nd here, I'm talking about like 2.09, 2.10,
Fair.
11, 12, 3rd round.
All right, so we'll move next, and this is another guy I liked, Cole Turner out of Nevada.
Good size, man.
He's definitely got good size, and he can catch the ball.
Yeah, he is a very concentrated player. He's very in tune to what's going on around him.
He was another tight end that didn't always play on the line. He was split out often, and he's another one that's more of a receiving tight end.
Yeah, and his height and his hands are what's going to make him valuable in the NFL. but he was fun to watch.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was a good route runner, and he had the help of a very accurate
quarterback.
quarterback.
Yeah, Carson Strong really elevates Cole Turner, and I mean I have Turner at my number 5. This is a pretty solid tight end class this year. I don't think
you
ever
don't have
had
the
this.
elites, but I think you have a few very good players.
I'm in tight ends, man. It's a hard fantasy football position to
One
fill.
thing I'm starting to try to do in Dynasty is hoard tight ends.
Yes,
And
good call.
all of it is because, for the most part, they're a dime a dozen. But when you get those Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts,
Travis
Kelsey's,
Mike
they're
Gesicki,
great, and people will pay
Kittle,
like crazy just to get those players.
George Kittle,
I'm not as sold on Kittle right now.
T.J. Hawkinson, Mike Gesicki.
But yes, you never
Evan
know.
Ingram.
You never know who's really going to break out unless their name starts. Both their names start with E's. Eric Ebron, Evan Ingram. Both of them had drop issues with their first team.
Yeah, I don't know, man. These guys are fun.
These are the guys that you draft late, you hold on to them, you sit on them, and then if they break out, like they have a big breakout, sell them.
Yep. Because tight ends don't seem not to last very long.
Some do.
Kelsey, yeah.
Kelsey, yeah.
About it.
I'm just waiting for that drop off on Kelsey.
Yeah, sell him while you can.
So
I'll take him for a second round.
I know we had 2 more quarterbacks or
Two
tight ends out there. So I didn't do any research on these guys.
I did, just out of curiosity, because I had seen some San Jose State games earlier on in the season. I love to watch college football. One of my favorite things to do, I will stay up all night watching West Coast games because I'm in Cincinnati, Eastern
Remember
time
when
zone.
we got done watching the fights and we turned on the Nevada game?
Yeah, that was fun.
We had an issue where we were watching the game and the audio was about a minute and a half ahead of the video.
Yeah, it was on, so we just had to watch it in mute.
Because it was so hard to focus.
Here's the thing I have with Derek Deese Jr., tight end out of San Jose State. He's a very raw player. He's used more in the intermediate passing game. But he's a great blocker. He's probably the best blocking tight end. And from what I read, now this is what I read. There's no film on him that I could get a hold of for free, at least. I already paid for one subscription. Well, Barbara, we pay for it jointly, right? Wink, wink. Physical blocker. His value might not be great fantasy football wise. It's
Okay.
a lot of raw talent right now, and right now he's a free agent. You're gonna pick him up and stash him in your taxi squad just to see what happens. The next guy that we didn't have film on, but we were keeping eyes on.
K-Dot out of Washington.
Yep, K-Dot out of Washington. He's 6'5", 250 pounds, so he's pretty solid. He comes from a great football background family. Pretty much like his father, grandfather, uncles have all played in the NFL. He has a brother in the NFL and another younger brother playing tight end for Washington. They said basically with his size, he's going to be a receiving tight end, and if he can hone in on his run blocking abilities, he will be a great tight end in the NFL.
One more name I kind of want to throw out. I haven't done any research on him, but I've seen his name kind of pop up lately. Is Jelani Woods. And I can't remember where he played, but he's another tight end that I've seen pop up a lot lately, and some people actually have him quite high up in their tight end rankings.
Okay.
So he's another name to keep an eye on. I wish I had more notes. I just wanted to bring that up and give you guys a chance. Like, if you wanted to go do the research, familiarize yourself with him.
Yeah, totally.
But I know this was a shorter episode. Tight ends, there's not a lot to talk about on these guys.
No, can they catch? Can they block? That's about it.
But we're going to go ahead and wrap up, and we'll be back again in a little bit with our pre-NFL draft mock draft.
Rookie mock draft.
Yep.
All
mock
rookies.
draft.
Woo woo. That'll be fun. It's going to go fast because we're going to be sitting here picking.
You got me running, got me running.